The actions you take today change the difficulty setting you wake up to tomorrow. But let's be honest, most of us love turning that difficulty setting up to ruin my life level. We wake up tired because we spent yesterday evening scrolling before bed. We go to get something out of the fridge for breakfast only to realise we haven't been shopping in a week, so we don't even have milk and we have to settle for just plain cornflakes. We go to grab our workout clothes out of the drawer only to realise they're still in the wash, so we have to skip another workout. We turn around at our room while we're at it only to realise it hasn't been cleaned in ages, and the unfinished tasks, urgent admin and relationship problems from months ago remain piled up.
Speak for yourself.
What?
So speak for yourself.
You are quite literally sat there watching YouTube with cornflakes all over you.
Fair enough on the cornflakes part, but I'm actually watching a lecture, so...
Oh yeah? Well, let me record my video then. Anyway, where were we?
That's me fighting a violent crackhead in Seattle, Washington.
I put a whole bag of jelly beans up my ass.
Por culpa de uno, sufren todos.
I didn't know you spoke French.
You might think these things suddenly appear each day, but they don't. Most of them are created from the day before. Here's why this matters. The more unfinished business yesterday piles onto today, the heavier your today becomes to carry. And that's when your world starts to affect your mental health through something psychologists call accumulation. The idea is simple. One dirty plate isn't going to damage your mental health. The lack of sleep, missed meals, looming deadlines, financial admin, unanswered messages soon whirl together to create a daily environment that feels more like a pit you've fallen into rather than solid ground to stand on. Here's the bottom line of this whole video. Your mental health suffers when too much of your time is spent battling preventable mess rather than facing meaningful challenges. But by preventable mess, I don't mean those moments when you're suddenly hit with that sad, overwhelming sensation of what is life and what am I doing with it. Here's what I mean. Hi. Listen. By preventable mess, I mean letting small repairs become big emergencies, searching every morning for things that could have been prepared, recovering from avoidable sleep deprivation, dealing with the consequences of short-term relief, carrying dozens of open tasks with no plan, repeatedly reopening decisions you could have made once. I could go on, but the thing is, call it accumulation, call it self-sabotage, call it your dog's left bollock, call it whatever you want. My favourite way to describe this concept is a concept that comes from the psychiatrist Dr. K. He calls it spawn points. To explain it, think of a video game. Every single time you load into that game, the world you spawn into depends on what you saved the last time you played that game. It's exactly the same with your life. Every single night you go to bed, you hand tomorrow's version of yourself a mind, a body, a list of problems, a list of relationships, a room. The question is, what are you handing them? Here's what to do next. The easiest way to improve your mental health and to get back on track in your life is to stop treating your future self, your tomorrow self, your 1 month from now self. Stop treating your future self as if they are some far-off alien you'll never meet, and instead start treating them like the person they are, which is the version of you who will bear the burden or the fruit of the actions you take today. So how do you do this? Well, I've been doing this for the last few weeks since I came up with the idea for this video, and it's been revolutionizing my life. I think this is the favorite psychological tool I've ever shared in any video. So here it is. When you wake up in the morning and you open your eyes, don't get out of bed straight away. Sit there for 1 minute, just 1 minute, and daydream by asking yourself, What could I do within the next 5 minutes that would make life slightly easier for me tomorrow? Bit underwhelming, isn't it? Because it's so simple. Yes, this works. If you just sit and wait for an answer, because it will come, God knows where from, your intuition, you know, a bit of undigested food from yesterday, wherever it comes from, listen to the answer no matter how ugly it is, and then boom, wake up and do that thing. And then throughout the day, at any point you feel confused as to what to do, you know, you sat there twiddling your thumbs thinking, what do I do? Ask this question again and again and again and again. Within a day, your life will feel completely different, and so will you. Because you'll become the type of person who treats their future self with an air of sincerity and respect. Just to give you some examples of me answering this question today, well, me recording this video right now is an answer to this question, because I knew if I didn't record the video today, I would have to record it on the weekend while I'm recording my course videos, and it just would have been a heavy weekend. Also, tomorrow me will probably want a little bit of a clear mind, so easy on the doom scrolling. And also 6 months from now, Lewis, if I go even that further and project further into the future, because the further into the future the better, so long as it's not overwhelming, he will have wanted Lewis now to have, you know, maintained practice in Spanish for about 10 to 15 minutes a day, and also doesn't hurt being healthier, does it? So eat the right foods, and you can go as far as you want, but just treat one answer at the time as the next thing, and then just go and do that thing. So the key takeaway of this whole video is resist the overwhelming and sometimes exciting urge to try and fix your entire life in one day, and instead just work on changing your starting point for tomorrow. That is the full video summarized with the key takeaway. So if that all makes sense, feel free to click off right now and get busy answering this question and asking it. But if you'd like to go a few steps deeper, then, well, what we're going to cover next is a very important caveat to all of this. People who probably won't watch the whole video are already screaming about in the comments. So quick caveat, and then we're going to go deeper into the psychology behind why maintaining a relationship with future you works so well. Quick caveat. The caveat we need to mention is one that's very realistic. You might not be able to control your spawn point, you know, the world you wake up into. For example, you might be in a war-torn country, you might be in an abusive household, or be in extreme poverty. Sometimes life just chooses your spawn point for you, and it's a spawn point that is much harder to maneuver in comparison to other people, which sucks. In which case, where do we go from there? Well, understand the difference between a spawn point and a checkpoint. The difference is, a spawn point is where you begin from. So this is your circumstances, the fact you're in a war-torn country, for example, your energy, your resources, the environment, the household you're in. The checkpoint is where, how did I put it? The checkpoint was the next place you manage to reach from that spawn point. It's you being able to exert some influence over the situation without having to change the overall spawn point. So for example, it could be saving a little bit of money. It could be leaving the house for 10 minutes. It could be making one phone call. It could be asking for help. You know, it could be finding one safe person to speak to, or overall just trying to make tomorrow just 0.1% easier, no matter what that looks like for you in the spawn point you find yourself. That's the caveat I wanted to mention. Maybe that could be thought through a little bit further. But nevertheless, let's wrap up this video by covering the psychology behind why trying to maintain a relationship with your future self is so bloody hard in the first place, and why so many of us struggle with it. By the way, if you do find yourself in a situation like that, where you have no control over the spawn point because of one of those reasons or another one, then if you have any idea about how to make reaching checkpoints, or even the idea of checkpoints, a little bit more visual and practical for other people to use, then feel free to comment down below any ideas you have, because this is how it works when I share ideas with you guys. It's like we can collaborate on them in the comments if they're not completed. Psychologists refer to how connected you feel to your future self as future self continuity, and they've found that people who have a better future self continuity show increased ability to make better decisions that improve their health and their life. You know, better financial decisions, environmental decisions, better health decisions, and all of that. But hearing that it's a good idea to have future self continuity doesn't really make building a relationship with your future self any easier, does it? So why the bloody hell is it so hard? The bottom line is, it is so hard to maintain a relationship with your future self for two reasons. One, your brain is biased to prioritise the present. And second of all, your brain heavily underestimates the costs of your actions today for tomorrow. So let's break these two down quickly. Think of a caveman trudging through the savannah desert looking for a little animal to spear. Back then, life was pretty uncertain. Not just for him, but also for his cavewoman wife, kids, and other village members. Most nights, they wouldn't know if they would spend it safely asleep or being pillaged by the local tribe and, you know, skinned or whatever they did back then, you know. At one minute, they could be sat by the campfire eating a little monkey, or the next minute being mauled to smithereens by saber-toothed tigers and then speared through the back end by the local tribe and turned into a totem pole, is another way of saying what I just said. Back then, life just didn't have as much certainty as it does now. Now, of course, you're not living in caveman times anymore, but part of your brain still thinks that you are. Which is why, whenever you scoff down a tub of ice cream, waff away your problems until tomorrow and bury your head in your phone rather than doing what needs to be done in your life, it's because sometimes to your brain the present is all that feels real. Which leads us to the second problem. I say your brain, I mean my brain as well, you know. Your brain underestimates the costs of today's actions, even though there's a tiny little smidge of you that does understand, okay, yeah, my future self is real and does exist. That still doesn't make it feel real, which is why your brain's prediction of how much energy, willingness, and capability you'll have tomorrow in order to clean up today's mess is about as wonky as a witch's nose. I call this the trap of optimism. Our brains get us to imagine waking up into tomorrow as the energy-filled, hyper-motivated, non-procrastinating versions of ourselves we wish we were. But of course what usually happens is we wake up into tomorrow with the same lethargic, future-escaping energy we had yesterday that created the mess that we're in. Let's wrap up. It's a bit dark. I put the blinds down because cretin has got tarpaulin on his roof and it keeps reflecting off the whiteboard in the sun. You can't choose your spawn point sometimes. In short, the present feels more real than the future, which is why putting off until tomorrow feels like a sales script you fall for every single time. And that's also why building a relationship with your future self is so important, and why every time you let them guide you by asking the question of what could I do within the next 5 minutes that would make life for myself easier tomorrow, and then you do that thing, wake up and feel the ease, your relationship with them becomes more real. Just one more quick thing. Think about it. You wouldn't expect your relationship with your mum, your dad, your best friend, your partner, or whoever to get any deeper and flourish if you ignored their calls and just never spoke to them. No, your brain would eventually remove them out of the picture. So too, the same idea applies with your future self. Your relationship with them isn't going to flourish and get any deeper if you don't put in the minutes to converse with them and let them guide you through brainstorming. Let them guide you. And remember, the key takeaway of the video, every single day, you hand yourself a body, a room, a list of problems, a list of relationships, a mind. The question is, what are you handing them? Thank you very much for your time and attention. Stay disciplined, playful, and dangerous. Adios, muchachos y muchachas.